and gentlemen, good evening. Welcome to Preysal and welcome to the auditorium of the Preysal Government Secondary School for the second installment of our island-wide series of consultations on local government reform.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation. Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, Senator the Honorable Franklin Khan, Chairman of corporations, members of councils, Permanent Secretary Ms. Desra Bascom, Permanent Secretary Mr. Isaac James, CEO of the Couva Tabaquite and Talparo Regional Corporation, Ms. Carol Dial, members of the Cabinet-appointed committee, ladies and gentlemen, pleasant good evening. Welcome to the region of Couva Tabaquite and Talparo, the second largest corporation in Trinidad with a population of 178,160 and a geographical space of 719.6 square kilometers. Our 18-member council comprises of 14 councillors, 4 aldermen, like 14 and 18. 15 of those are UNC members. We have 2 ILP members and 1 PNM member, my good friend sitting in front of me here. Our main town centers are Couva and Gasparilla. 75% of the region can be deemed rural, and some parts I like to refer to as rural of the rurals. With Tabaquite and Talparo being identified in our regional plan as areas to be developed into towns. Ladies and gentlemen, we all eat, sleep, and breathe local government. In my 13 years as a local government practitioner, I have been to numerous local government reform consultations with various ministers of local government, namely Reni Dumas, Ms. Hazel Manning, Dr. Sudratan Rambachan, and now the Honorable Franklin Khan. A substantial amount of work was done, but never really implemented. Up to the year 2012, councillors did not have an office nor a secretary. So we were all thankful when that was made available to us by the People Partnership Government. I must add, based on what I just mentioned, there is consensus across the political divide for local government reform. Last night I was going through my Facebook page and something popped up. A former councillor, one of the best councillors I ever knew, the late councillor Firaz Ali, was on a program. It was a government program, and that popped up last night, and I opened it. And he made a very profound statement. He said, local government is much more than roads and drain. He said, local government brighten up the lives of people. He was a very, very good councillor. May he rest in peace. Based on that, I just want to point out a few things. We have started our local tourism drive in this corporation with the intent to create local economic development. We have identified and started developing some sites, for example, Nolly's Tunnel in Tabaquite. We have allocated funding for the conceptual design for the Calibe waterfront project. And we are hoping that we can have the neighboring largest industrial estate in the Caribbean, the Point Lisas Industrial Estate, partner with us on this project. And just to inform the minister, we have also agreed to present this proposal as our carry-led project. Other areas that stand out in the region as possible tourism sites are the La Vega Estate, the temple in the sea in Waterloo, the largest Hanuman statue in the Caribbean at Waterloo, the San Antonio Cocoa Estate, where traditional methods of drying the cocoa and so on are still practiced, drying and dancing and so on. I would like to take this opportunity, however, to point out a very important matter. I would like to inform the burgesses of the region that due to lack of releases for material and supplies for the month of October, December, and January, none under our what we call 612 vote material and supplies. We understand the economic situation that we are in, but the burgesses must know it is no fault of ours when we are unable to deliver. Just last Thursday, both administration and members of council had to carry out the hard task of cutting 7% of our budget allocation for the present financial year, mainly from goods and services. Honorable Minister, I want to make a proposal. There are government-owned quarries, one in the region, that can be open so we can access material to develop roads and so on in these trying times. As I wrap up, on behalf of members of council, administration, and burgesses of the Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo region, I want to thank the Honorable Minister and his team for selecting the Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo Regional Corporation for the second consultation on local government reform. I have some questions I may want to pose later on after I hear what the Minister has to say. And I want to thank each and everyone for coming out, and we look forward to a very successful consultation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. For those of you who don't know, and I hope it's none of you, I am Franklin Khan, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government. Welcome to the consultations on local government reform, and thank God you all didn't keep the consultation in reform. Although I had to say welcome to the local government consultation reform in reform. And welcome to Preysal Secondary School. I want to especially thank Mr. Henry Awong, Chairman of the Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo Regional Corporation, for hosting the second consultation in the series. And I want to thank you all very much for coming out this evening to listen to us, but more importantly, to share your thoughts, ideas, and comments on this process.
Home sweet home. You grew up here, and with hard work, prayers, and dreams, you made this into the place where you raise your family. But 4 years ago, the river changed course, right after they cleared the land for that compound on the hill. We and the neighbors reported it to our councillor. Not under local jurisdiction. Waterways were not under the control of the corporation. Ministry of Works. No biggie. We went to the regional office. That began the trail, a trail of paper and taxi fares, door after door, letter after letter, a trail as long as the river itself, left wondering which was the real destructive force, this or the long and winding river of red-taped bureaucracy. It was now simply a question of which would get to us first.
Ladies and gentlemen, the video you just saw illustrates a system and the dynamics that are not unfamiliar to any of us. Whether it is a river, a crack in a drain, an empty lot next door, delivering social services, school repairs, a local heritage site, waste management, a bus shelter, the list goes on and on. I make the point that under the current system, when a community needs something done, it has to take place in one of the many clogged and narrow arteries that run through the centralized heart of government. These consultations, ladies and gentlemen, are very unique in the sense that this is the first time public consultations are being held in the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, but will look solely at Trinidad. The reason being extremely simple. Tobago's local government machinery and service delivery mechanisms have progressed well beyond Trinidad. I say that again. Tobago's local government delivery system and social service delivery has progressed well beyond Trinidad. And this is directly due to local government reform that took place in Tobago under the Tobago House of Assembly Act. So looking at the Tobago experience, we see that there is more that separates us than water. We are separated by a whole different system of service delivery. To use a pun, it is not the sea, but really the bureaucracies that really differentiate our local government system. And like many communities across Trinidad, in the days of the Tobago County Council, Tobago had to come to central government for virtually everything. When the legislation was passed in 1996, the THA was given legal and local authority and autonomy to change that. So today, while you in Couva still have to go to Port of Spain and to San Fernando for many things, the people of Tobago don't. The people of Tobago no longer have to come to Port of Spain to secure a passport. Tobagonians no longer have to rely on central government to maintain their open spaces and their own heritage sites. So why should you? Tobagonians no longer have to come to Port of Spain to get a liquor permit or a driver's permit. So why should you in Couva, Tabaquite and Talparo? And as a corporation, Tobago doesn't have to come to town for its local heritage sites and its tourism product, as the chairman rightfully alluded to. Why should central government be part of the development of Northeast Tunnel? Because it is yours. Because of the THA Act number 40 of 1996, Tobago has now the autonomy to virtually manage most, if not all, aspects of their life. Everything that matters to Tobagonians are handled by the THA, save and except its use of foreign policy, national security, and other arms of government that has to be centralized. Because of that, they have established some very, very unique institutions that we would, if we're serious, we would want to follow. For example, TEMA, the Tobago Emergency Management Authority. If I should say so myself, TEMA operates in terms of response time and how they respond to disaster as a first responder. They do significantly better than our Office of Disaster Preparedness and Management. They have a medical alert device system where 520 senior citizens were given free medical alert devices. So if they fall or something, they just press a button, a signal goes into a telephone service system, and an ambulance responds perfectly. When school opens on a September, every time in Trinidad you have to study what is the headline. 10 schools not open, this parent protesting here, the students protesting here. You never hear that in Tobago. Because school repairs is handled by the Tobago House of Assembly. And by and large, when you go to Tobago, if you want to be honest to yourself, things just seem to be happening better, especially at the local government level. The place is cleaner, the roads are better kept, public buildings are better kept, and social service delivery and delivery on all aspects of service seems to be superior to us. Ladies and gentlemen, Tobagonians have the power to treat with their own community, their own unique culture, and their own unique way of life. What this local government reform process will do is will be defining communities. Because just as how the Tobagonian is unique, probably a little more unique than us because they're a separate island, they have a separate history, their evolution through slavery, and through the transfer of islands over the French, British, and the Dutch over the years have been different to ours. But they have their unique culture. Doesn't the people of Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo culturally feel different to the people of Diego Martin? And whether you want to answer or not, I will answer. The answer is yes. Because Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo was part of what used to be called the Caroni County Council. And the ward of Savannah Grande and all these wards and counties. And by and large, Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo and Chaguanas have replaced the County Caroni. The County Caroni had its own unique sociology, its own unique lifestyle, its own demographics, and what have you. So, if Tobago is unique, Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo is unique, just as how Point Fortin is also unique, this is how Sandy Grande is also unique. And I can tell you, Mr. Hazari, Mayaro Rio Claro is also unique. But essentially, the Tobago House of Assembly Act was passed in 1990. Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman mentioned Dumas had consultation on local government. Mrs. Hazel Manning had many consultations on local government. More recently, 2013, Honorable Suraj Rambachan had consultations on local government reform. But I want to say something here quite categorically. Successive administrations, and I say successive administration meaning both PNM and UNC administration, have kicked the can down the road. This administration does not plan to kick the can down the road further. Because, again, sorry for quoting you so much, Mr. Awong, but all the work has been done, you know. In the Ministry of Local Government, they have piles and piles of report. Very, very good work. From Dumas to Hazel Manning to Suraj Rambachan, all very, very good work. But nothing happened. Nothing happens in developing countries because something called inertia permeates the society. So by the time you catch yourself, a government change after 5 years, and 5 years pass again, and 5 years pass again. By the time you catch yourself, a quarter century has passed. And when you look back, you're in the same position that you found yourself in 25 years ago. That is, to me, is what defines underdevelopment. Because nothing transformational happens. And what I am saying is that this administration plans to stop that. Because we think we have the political will to do it. And local government reform is going to take place. I make the point to tell you how serious this administration is on local government reform. The current administration reduced the cabinet from 33 to 23. That is a major reduction. That's a 30% reduction in the size of the cabinet. And yet, the Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, still saw it fit to create an entirely new ministry called the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. Local government is an appendage that will be cut off. I will explain that shortly. To create a Ministry of Rural Development. So, my mandate, and I like to call myself the Transformation Minister, because I am in charge of the two transformational issues in terms of the governance of Trinidad and Tobago. One, the disbanding of the Ministry of Local Government, and I will get shortly to tell you what that means, and the creation of a brand new ministry called the Ministry of Rural Development. Because I will be the first to admit that since 1962 to now, the pendulum has swung in the favor of urban resources. The development in this country has been too skewed over the years of the last 5 decades into urban communities. And what that has caused is a major rural deficit position that we are in, not only in infrastructure, but in all types of social amenities. So the Ministry of Rural Development will now start to carve the space for rural people so that this pendulum could swing back to a position where you as a rural community can feel comfortable. I want to make the point that the Ministry of Rural Development mandate is not to urbanize rural areas. It is to keep the rural atmosphere, to keep the rural lifestyle, to keep the rural spirit, but to bring in the amenities that the urban centers currently enjoy into rural communities. We'll have a program on rural ATM machines. Why should somebody in Biche have to take a taxi to go to Sandy Grande to take out $500 from the bank? We'll have a development on rural housing. Over the years, again, I will be the first to admit, sometimes the housing policy was skewed too much to large communities like La Hoqueta, Maloney, Edinburgh 500, big, massive communities, 2,000, 3,000 houses with no identity. Under our rural housing program, we will do village expansions. So you go to a village, I'll take Moruga as an example. You wouldn't go to Moruga and grade down 100 acres of land and build 2,000 houses. You go to Marak and you build 25 houses. You go to La Lune, you build 25 houses. You go to Grashime, you build 25 houses. You come to Bastia, you build 25. So 100 houses, but spread among 4 villages. So that the village absorbs the housing community and not these massive housing areas that has absolutely no identity. Fairfield in Princetown is a classic example. Flawed policy in terms of the context of maintaining the rural lifestyle. I digressed a minute here. But ladies and gentlemen, the local government transformation process goes beyond garbage collection, it goes beyond retaining wall waterways, community centers, and what have you. Almost every decision made by central government inevitably has an effect of what I call our software, our hearts and our minds, our sense of well-being, our sense of autonomy, and more importantly, our sense of community. Our sense of being able to make a difference, and our basic capacity to dream and to passionately pursue that dream has been taken away from us. I'll quote an example. If you go to the United States, if Walmart wants to come into our community, you just can't come in, so you know. It's a town council meeting. And if the town council say they want no Walmart, Walmart could know Obama. It doesn't matter. Not in America. It don't work so. You cannot come there. The state of Vermont, few people know, one of the most beautiful places in America for fall. The state of Vermont has banned all fast food chains. So America is a home of fast food, McDonald's, Burger King. There are no McDonald's or Burger King in the state of Vermont. Because the state of Vermont say, we do not want that. There are no Home Depot because they want to protect the mom and pop stores, the mom and pop hardwares, and the mom and pop restaurants. That is the power of decentralization. State government who will override federal government when it comes to matters that pertain to their state. Centralization of decision, ladies and gentlemen, affects our needs and our ability to unite and build stronger communities. So in a very real sense, and particularly at the pace of the modern world, I'm making a very, very controversial statement here. Centralized government is more likely to be a problem than a solution. I will just deal briefly now with what I see as the major impediments that have prevented existing local government structures to be more efficient, more effective, and to give cost-effective and timely service delivery. First and foremost, political interference. And that is where I will come to the disbanding of the Ministry of Local Government. Because the Ministry of Local Government is not local government, you know. The Ministry of Local Government is central government. Local government resides with the regional corporation. So any system that has a Ministry of Local Government with a big stick over the regional corporation is really central government with a mask. Because everything, you know, I am sick of the type of request that has come to my desk. I just have to ask the PS, what are they asking me to do this for? Go ahead and do it. You're the chairman of a corporation. You're the CEO of a corporation. Every single thing, you can't even go to the bathroom, you have to ask the minister for permission. This is what we have to change. And we're not changing it for P&M Corporation. Let me clear that here one time. Local government reform, if we're empowering the mayor of Port of Spain, if we're empowering the mayor of San Fernando, by the same token, the powers of the mayor of San Fernando and the mayor of Port of Spain will be the same power that the chairman of the Couva Tabaquite and Talparo has, or the same power that the chairman of Penal DB Corporation have. You said there's only one P&M councillor in Couva, it have none in DB Penal, you know. But then we have 12, and we have all in Port of Spain, Diego Martin, and Arima. But the point I'm making is that the devolution of power has absolutely nothing to do with politics. And the way we want to prove that is by disbanding the Ministry of Local Government. You will come under an arrangement similar to the THA. You will be accountable to the Minister of Finance. And I will talk about accountability shortly. And you must be accountable to the Auditor General. And I want to know about something one time with this empowerment thing. If there's corruption in Trinidad, and it is centralized, and you empower corporations and you decentralize the corruption, from centralized corruption, all you will get is decentralized corruption. And trust me, decentralized corruption probably worse than centralized corruption. I'm putting you all on a warning notice. Because with the power you will get comes a level of responsibility and morality in public affairs. Inadequate funding. We all know this story. Just articulated by the chairman again. The corporations under successive administration have always been inadequately funded because it just comes with the territory. And what makes matters worse is that over the last 2 decades or so, something was invented, I won't say who invented, called special purpose companies. So I'll quote a good example for you. During the Finance Committee meeting and the budget debate, Honorable Suraj Rambachan asked me a question. I was on the chair. He said, Couva Tabaquite and Talparo has 26 recreation grounds or something like that under its jurisdiction. 121. But they only had $4 million in the budget for recreation grounds. So you say, how can they possibly maintain 120-something grounds with $2 million? Okay? Well, obviously, I have no answer for that. But that is the case. But up comes the Ministry of Sports and the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago. I know where they're getting all this money from. But they're just starting to put lights on ground, lash. You don't know from whence they came, who they consulted, which grounds they decided to put first, second, or third. I have seen lights on grounds in Trinidad and Tobago, especially when you fly over Trinidad in the night, and I want to deal with the corporations on that. Let's take off those lights in the night now. When nobody's using the ground, you're wasting current. But you see grounds. God alone knows why those grounds are lit. And if there was the lit gong, there should have been a pecking order. Okay, and then you see certain gongs that's supposed to be lit are not lit, and certain gongs, obviously, low down on the pecking order to be lit and is lit. So what we will do is synchronize the activities of the state so that we will be releasing more money to the local government, because all that money that comes through the sports company should really be channeled through the regional corporations to handle their work at the level of the regional corporation. Another case in point is PURE. A lot of you familiar with the PURE program. PURE spends approximately $1 billion a year in road paving. But at least 40% of those roads are minor roads, you know. So if that comes under the jurisdiction of the regional corporation, $400 million of funds actually become available instantaneously for infrastructural work. But the works are being done, but it's not channeled through the proper agency for its execution. But all that will form part of the discussion. Obviously, there's inadequate support in legislation, which we will discuss hopefully, and a sluggish administrative structure, both at the level of the Ministry of Local Government and at the level of the regional corporation. So, ladies and gentlemen, local government has been ineffective and burdened, again, because the authority, and I dealt with that a while ago, of the authority is centralized at the level of the Ministry of Local Government. So we asked the question in the context of service delivery. How many ministers know your community like you do? Because there's a saying, all politics is local. How many ministers know their communities like you do? How many of them know that the lady who lives down the road, who has to go to Port of Spain every year, she survives, to prove to them that she's alive, the life certificate thing, just so that she could get her pension? No single minister can know every community, every street, far less every old lady who is in need of some social program. Our vision, ladies and gentlemen, is a fully operationalized and networked local government system that has empowerment as its mandate. Empowerment to the councillors and your representative. And the reason why we want no Ministry of Local Government is that you are accountable to the Minister of Finance for your money. You are accountable to the Auditor General for how you spend your money. And you are accountable to your burgesses of how you perform. And every 3 years, your burgesses will tell you whether you performed to their satisfaction or you did not perform to their satisfaction. That is the ultimate level of accountability. So under this vision, we envision a quantum leap in all aspects of human endeavor, from healthcare, from maintenance of public spaces, local culture, identity creation, media, communication. All these aspects of your life will be under your control. Your ability to fix or plan your own road, build a retaining wall, launch a festival, local government reform will put that power in your hand as a people, in your hand as your local government representative. To deal specifically now with what we plan, and I just run through this very briefly because this is the subject of a paper. As we stated in the 2015 PNM Manifesto, the vision for local government reform seeks to remove all the red tape and bureaucracy that prevent local government body from doing their work in an effective and efficient manner. That PNM Manifesto is now official government policy. It plans to revolutionize and bring the system in line with the current recommendations that the many teams and committees and different administrations have engaged over the years to bring about this reform process. I am not a plagiarist. I will not go into this local government reform process as if it's my idea or it's a new idea. There's a body of literature, a body of work, most of that work very well done. All it needed was implementations and further discussion. Hence the reason why our timetable is so fast-tracked, because we know we don't have to reinvent the wheel. But the modern world, the modern democracy, the modern process of governance is that there has to be consultation with the stakeholders. This is the basis for this consultation. But we have a body of literature there that was already sourced from consultations of the past. And we will be using that whole body of knowledge to implement this new structure. Now, I'll very briefly go through what are the specific areas that the policy document articulates, and again, probably that will be the core subject of discussion. Secure funding. A lot has been said last week. The debate, a lot of debate was expounded on the property tax. whether I ask the tax or don't ask the tax. The fact of the matter is that you'll be paying property tax at the rate of 2009. It's a highly politicized issue, but I just want to say one thing. Tell me a well-run country in the world where you do not pay property tax. And to make matters worse, you know, there are old people, my mother included, she's passed now. And when January the 2nd reached, the first thing this lady has to do is go to the warden office and pay land and building taxes. Because they feel that if you don't pay the taxes, the government will seize your property and seize your land. You all know, you all are country people, you know that. And that 6 years or so that where people were told, do not pay land and building taxes. People still frightened. Because it is the law. And you just can't say, do not obey the law. So we will be implementing the land and building taxes as per your 2009 rates. However, hopefully by 2017, the land and building taxes will be the responsibility of the regional corporation, and the funds so collected will stay within your region to develop your local community, because this is your local taxes. It's happening all over the world. And that will give you a cash flow to handle your business, and you'll get your subventions as and when required. But it will be an immediate cash flow. So if you have to buy material, once you land and then based on what corporation you're talking about, a lot of money. $300 million, $300 to $350 million are collected per year in land and building taxes. Okay? If your 300 is about, say, $30 million per corporation, 350 million on or about. $30 million per corporation. Your capital budget is be 10 million. So there's a lot of room for improvement. So if you're looking at pure money, you're looking at Ministry of Sports money, and you're looking at your own land and building taxes, the resources are available in the country, you know. It is just allocated in a haphazard way, and it is not focused on where it is actually needed, and it is needed at the level of the community. So, secure funding. The next aspect is executive authority. We're still in the process of formulating how it will work. Again, this is the purpose of some of these consultations. We're proposing a similar model, like the THA, where you will have almost like an executive council. First and foremost, councillors will have to be full-time. Okay? And you will have a secretary of infrastructure. So in the past, you'd have had these committees. You might have a secretary with direct responsibility for that. You know, these are some of the issues we're working out as we speak. But you'll have executive authority. New responsibilities. The Municipal Corporation Act that replaced the County Council Act, by and large, all that did was a change of the boundaries, you know, because the schedule and your responsibility level and your profile remain basically the same. Minor roads, minor drains, minor water courses, cemeteries, recreation, ground, and local health, abattoirs, market, and things. That was the same thing in County Council, you know. What we're planning to do now is give you new levels of responsibility, school maintenance, and most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, the Prime Minister spoke about this in a lot of his speeches, so you know it's gospel. Social welfare delivery. Because it's at the community level, you know what are the families at risk. You know who are the poor people, who are the poor families, who need shelter, who need a housing grant, who need, no, right now it's just which MP you know, and which manager in HDC or in National Self-Help Commission, you know. I've been real and I'm being honest. But if you have a decentralized system of social service delivery, you will have at the level of the corporation, your social welfare officers working with you. And they will be in charge of a smaller area. So they're supposed to know by name what a list of who the at-risk families are, who is suffering from child abuse, who is suffering from domestic violence, all the myriads of social ills that plague the society. New responsibilities. Local contractors. We're trying to put a system in place where, as far as is allowed by the Constitution of Trinidad and Tobago, and local government work should be given to a local contractor. Because if you have a contract in Couva or in Gasperlo, and a Gasperlo contractor gets it, this is something called the multiplier effect. So the workers will very likely be from Gasperlo. When they get paid, the wife will go to the Gasperlo market or the Marabella market. If they're taking a little beer Friday evening, it's in a Gasperlo bar, they will be drinking, hopefully. And that is the multiplier effect that goes into the community. More effective municipal policing, I don't want to spend too much time on that, but it is our intention to recruit 100 municipal police per corporation and restructure it into a command chain that takes it to the Commissioner of Police. Right now, the municipal police reports to the CEO. We don't think that is probably an acceptable administrative structure for law enforcement. So I am meeting with the Minister of National Security next week so we could work out a plan on that. Developmental control, town and country planning, a lot of the planning functions will now be delegated to the regional corporations. Right now you give completion certificate, but you cannot approve plans. And somebody build a normal flat house in the back of Caratal. What they have to go to San Fernando to Port of Spain to approve a plan for that for? If it's a big commercial building, well, you might see there are other issues that are a table there, so you need some centralized planning permission. But the normal residential areas, obviously, it is a waste of time, it is a waste of bureaucracy for these things to happen there. We will have a new model for infrastructural works, as I outlined before. And ladies and gentlemen, one of the areas we want to build in local government is disaster management. If I should say so myself, the regional corporations as first respondents in the disaster management is one of the areas of the regional corporation that works extremely well. Okay? And if we build on that capability, I think we'll be on the right track. Involvement of civil society. I don't know if it will be mandated in the Act, but procedurally, you will have to keep consultations and town hall meetings. That will be, that may even be legislated, I'm not sure. But you cannot, important decision on your community, sit down in council and take these decisions by yourself. They have to be a statutory requirement for consultation. Somebody coming to open a quarry somewhere in the Central Range. No one's arm of the government supposed to give that permission. Because if you're quarrying in Mayo, and you're going to expand your quarry in Mayo, quarry does have dust and this and big truck mashing up the road, what have you. You have to keep consultation with the resident and say, hey guys, there are two sides to this coin. Economic activity, where you will be getting jobs, you'll be getting this and income, and then there's an environmental side. It may cause for inconvenience. The dust level may affect your children's lungs. Okay? So all these are issues that face you, the people. It's not for government to adjudicate on that. And if you feel that that project is not in the interest of the community, at least you should have a right to voice that opinion and have some avenue to express it and probably even try to stop it. Because that is how it affects your lifestyle. Regional development planning, the last point. There's something called local regional spatial plans, which the Ministry of Local Government has coordinated, and each regional corporation already have some embryo of a plan. In the PNM's election in the 2013 local government election, we produced 14 regional plans for the 14 corporations. The PNM-run corporations will be asked to look at that plan and give effect to it. Obviously, we cannot ask a UNC or one corporation to take our plan and put it. It will still be made available to them, but you have the right as an elected body to come up with your own plans, obviously subject to some centralized authorization, because even though we're delegating authority to the regional corporation to do regional planning, remember, there must be centralized planning. So in other words, Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo can come up and say we want to build an aluminum smelter in Mayo, because that will be inconsistent with national policy. Okay? So the national policy framework will be made available. And then within that national policy framework from the Ministry of Planning, you will be able to develop the details of your regional plan. 2 final points. Boundaries. This is one of the areas we need consultation on. With this amount of executive authority that we plan to give out, is 14 corporations too much? Because I tell you, if we have 14 corporations with executive authority like the THA, so we have 14 in Trinidad and 1 in Tobago, a central government that have a cabinet of outside. Trinidad will be the most over-governed country in Trinidad and in the world. Okay, so it's something we have to be mindful of. Whether 14 corporations is too many, whether the 14 should be cut to 12, where should the boundary changes lie? Okay, so all these are major policy decisions that will have to be taken in this consultation. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, the organization and the structure of the new regional corporation. As we speak, few regional corporations have an engineer, far less a quantity surveyor. All they have is something called a building inspector, a local health something, I don't even know, and WS1 and WS2 and WS3. None of them have the level of qualification, the certification to administer complex contracts. So if you are getting the empowerment to handle complex contracts, to handle high-cost contracts, to handle complex project management issues, you have to source the skills. There's something called supply chain management now that is sweeping the world. Those are new skill sets of the 21st century. We need auditors, we need accountants, we need organizational experts, we need field officers. On the engineering side, as I said, we need procurement people, we need supply chain managers, we need engineers, we need project managers. We need a whole suite of new skills. So the recruitment process in the new administration of the local government area will be a highly active area where we plan to absorb new skills. It will call for a lot of employment creation. And I'll just make one statement on that. This country has invested billions of dollars in GATE. All of you all have children who have degrees. Billions of dollars in GATE. The average person you could, on the street, if you take a random sample in Chaguanas in Couva anyway, and you say, what's your qualification? The chances are one of them will have a bachelor's degree. Some of them have master's degree. And I made a statement in the parliament, and Mrs. Amin took me to task for it, but I'll make it again. We suffer from underemployment, more so than unemployment. And I took the liberty to state, and I will state it again. Sometimes, underemployment is worse than unemployment. Because you have your child with the great expectation of going to university, getting a degree, going on to do postgraduate, getting a master's degree, getting an MBA, and coming back out and have to take a job that is way below what they are qualified to do. It hurts you as a parent. Good? And the society and the government is responsible for that, because we dealt with one part of the equation, which is the free tertiary education. So everybody, Tom, Dick, and Harry in university now, but when you come out on this side of the conduit, there's nothing. The local government reform would be some of the issues that will be employing new people, We'll be employing new skills, and as far as possible, we will try to recruit people from the area. Okay, so the skills of Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo should more often than not be sourced from the Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo region. It will help solve the traffic problem to a point too, because if you check everybody who's going to Port of Spain, it's just like crazy ants, People up and down, working here, working there, but there's no centralized planning and coordination of some of the activities in Trinidad and Tobago. On the legislation side, as I said, we will amend the Municipal Corporation Act, we will amend the relevant taxation laws, and basically those will be the two sets of legislative reform that we'll be planning. The timetable, as I said, a lot of the work has been done already. We have 12 more consultations to do. We will do it in quick succession in the coming months. At a minimum, as you all know, you all are councillors, local government election is due 2016. I think it's the 21st of October, when the term expires. You have 3 months after that. So at the back end, you're looking at the 21st of January. January 2017 is also THA election. So very likely the local government election will be held at the end of 2016. I cannot tell you the date, that's what the Prime Minister to say, but I'm just telling you that we're the window in which we have to hold the election. At a minimum, we want to have all the legislation in Parliament by the time the election is due. So you will know that this will be the new legislative framework in which you will be involved in when the local government election is called, and whoever win, lose or draw, and then you will start now the transformation process on the ground. It will probably take 2 to 3 years for this whole thing to unfold, to get flesh, and to be implemented. This local government reform, ladies and gentlemen, in closing, is probably the most significant activity that is taking place in the governance structure of Trinidad and Tobago. Because if this goes according to plan, the governance landscape of this country will change completely. We will almost move into a federal and a state type system. So you have federal government has its jurisdiction, the state government, which is in terms of the regional corporation, will be in charge of local matters. So, in closing, I solicit your support and your collaboration in this exercise. As I said, trust me, I'm probably one politician you could trust. There's no sinister motive in this. There's absolutely no sinister motive in this, and by and large, there isn't any political flavor to this reform thing, because it is as broad as it is wide. It is equal opportunity for PNM, UNC, and if ILP still exists by the next election, we will take it there. Okay? So, and MSJ, sorry, Mr. Abdullah. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope I know I was slightly longer than I thought, but I just got involved and I wanted to share so much with you. So, we have one final video clip to show, and then I'll make some closing remarks.
That's Frank and Mo from Frank and Mo and Company. They checking out that construction going on up the hill across the river. A new residential something. Frank and Mo doing the environmental impact thing to make sure that a compound that big don't tie the whole place now. They get that contract from the council. Oi Chris, here, have a blessed day. Oops, almost forget my breakfast. Thanks Shireen, you too Nibs. Texted in my order since I get up. And in May, local theatre company School Street Performance Group premieres its new musical at the School Street Community Centre in May. I in that. A couple years ago, there was no local news. And even if it had any, I absolutely wasn't taking out no iPad to get nothing nowhere around here. But things different now. That's Maureen making her way to the new clinic. Local taxes build that. Carla just moved back from Canada. Toronto have nothing on School Street. Oh, by the way, That's the school they named School Street after. My brother worked on the new ventilation system for them. Preysal. His office is 3 streets down so. On time. Yes, the bus is CNG. We petitioned for a few more and we're working on insisting that only CNG buses can use our length of the bus route. The carbon monoxide destroying the limestone caves in the quarry, and that will kill the tourism in the area. Now I see that the Komuto Council and the Pointe-a-Pierre Council asking for the same things. We's pioneers.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, what we try to do graphically is show you a video at the beginning that shows the bureaucratic blocks and the passing of the buck as the system currently exists. This video tries to capture what a new dispensation could possibly look like. It will take some time and effort for that to happen, but that is the image we wanted to portray. So those are our thoughts from the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government and from the government of Trinidad and Tobago. The rest of this evening will be to get your contribution. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, bring up anything you want. Nothing is taboo. Don't afraid to say what you want to say, okay? We were talking about reform. I know a lot of you will want to bring up specific problems in your area. While we would want to accept some of that, don't let the conversation go too much down that way, because those are operational issues. And all I will say, well, talk to your counselor or talk to them. So, let us deal with some of the policy perspective that I have articulated here, where you think it can work, where you think it cannot work, what will be the constraints, what would be some of the things we need to look at in a new way. So once again, thanks very much, and we will start the consultation. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. I had a little bit of a preamble as a journalist who has covered this thing for many years, because my memory of the reform process sort of predates some of what I've been hearing, because I was around in the early 80s, and I know I'm seeing people like Lennox Sankasing in the audience who would nod and who would be in agreement with what I have to say, which is that this language of local government transformation has been around for a very long time. That's one observation. The second observation that I would make as a journalist who has been covering this for many years is that this is one of those rare areas of very strong bipartisan support, where it has not mattered which political party has been in power. You have heard the same talk about decentralization and a high level of divestment of executive authority. So these are not new concepts. And it's encouraging as a citizen to know now that this is the time for action. And I think that one of the observations that I've made about consultations of this kind in the past is that what we as citizens need to do are to make very focused interventions at the level of the infrastructure that's being proposed. What are the political and administrative arrangements to facilitate some of what the minister has said, and also to address some of the challenges that Chairman Awang alluded to, because those are very real day-to-day challenges that all of the people who head local government administrations throughout the country have to confront. So I want to, as I said, a lot of my preamble has been taken up by what the minister had to say, and in part by what the chairman of the Couva, Tabaquite and Talparo Regional Corporation had to say with respect to the visioning and also with respect to the challenges. So now we want to hear from you citizens, what are your observations about what have been said? What are the comments with respect to what is being proposed? And what are some of the burning questions that you need answered on this evening? So I'm going to open the floor now. The ground rules are pretty clear. The minister spoke about it. Our MC earlier on spoke about it, which is let's maintain a very focused discussion that looks at the issue of local government reform. What are its constituent elements, and what are the things we need to change to make it deliver? So come to the microphone, please identify yourself. If you belong to an organization, feel free to make a plug for the organization, but keep your comments, your observations, and your questions focused and brief. Now, believe me, I have a lot of questions of my own, so if there are any lulls, if there's a lull in the proceedings, I'm going to take the liberty of asking some of those questions myself. I also want to, at this stage, not only thank the live audience here at the Preysal Secondary School, but to also welcome our listening audience on Talk City 91.1 FM. So this lady here, you'll go first.
Hi, good night to one and all. Question, given that the Central Statistical Office seems to be relatively inactive, will it now be the remit of the relevant local government body to collect statistical data in their respective area, or will this remain the purview of the CSO?
Thank you very much. Your name, please?
Arlene Nisus.
Thank you very much. Perhaps we can go straight to the panel to answer the question, Mr. Minister.
There will be a new statistical institute that is being formed as we speak, and it will be a joint, not a joint venture, but a collaborative effort between the government, academia, and the private sector. So it will be independent of central government. So it's a quasi-independent institution, and they will be mandated to compile all the statistics. I mean, that the committee that is doing that is already in place, and we expect that to be operational within the year.
I would presume there are some follow-up questions with respect to the quality of the data that's going to be collected, because there's a broader question of disparities among and between the various local government constituencies or areas with respect to resources and with respect to capacity. And if you're going to be giving these regional corporations or regions all of this power and responsibility, perhaps your data collection ought to focus on capacity as well.
Well, yes, but I think the data collection wouldn't be a core function of the regional corporation, but they could probably supply some more data to the new statistical institute. You know, it's a strange thing, because you had a very functional CSO for many, many years, and everybody felt comfortable with the statistics and the information that they give. And look at the quantum leap in database management that is available in the world today. The data should be available at the click of a button. There are so many queries you can do. There are so many operating systems that can operate, and everybody could upload and download and share information in what you call enterprise-wide software. Okay, so sometimes it baffles me why we are not in a better place as we speak in terms of data. But the Institute will deal with all of that.
Thank you, Minister. This gentleman.
Good night to the panel and everyone here. As you mentioned in your presentation, each regional corporation will have the capacity to execute their own services that may be unique to their specific demographic. What systems, if any, will be in place that will effectively link each region together with regards to things such as medical history, access to employment opportunities, as well as the economic cross-development, where regions will develop well-defined economic relationships with one another, similar to what Trinidad has with Tobago?
Well, is something that forms a fundamental part of the consultation, and I'll hand over to Mr. Roberts to say something on that. No matter what spin I put on it, and what spin the committee puts on it, we are empowering 14 corporations. They say they are autonomous and what have you. But there will still be some residual local government function at the central level, which is a coordinating arm. Okay? I don't feel the Ministry of Finance can effectively do that. Okay? So it's either we stay, okay, under the Ministry of Rural Development, there's a coordinating arm to handle the synchronization of the 14 corporations, or whether a group like TALGA, there's a Trinidad and Tobago Association of Local Government Bodies, whether we could redefine a role for them and what they see their function as. But I just hand over on Mr. Roberts to speak about that association.
Well, TALGA is, at this time, the Association of Local Government Practitioners. And it operates at this time as like a trade union for the local government practitioners. We believe that TALGA could play a more effective role in local governance by looking at some of the issues that you have raised and the minister referred to. But all these things at this time are now being given consideration.
Gentlemen, does it fully answer your question? Because what I'm also getting from you is a question with respect to technical interconnectivity. So that in the delivery of services, and you cited the health sector, for example, would there be this capacity among the various regions to share information at the technical level, such that you have a high level of interconnectivity?
Well, the answer is yes, but through which agency? Because you may have, for example, because of personalities, you say the chairman of Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo, and the chairman of Grandi Close, they may be sharing knowledge, shared knowledge, best practices, and what have you. And that time I was suffering down there, nobody talking to them. So you have to have some officialdom in a system like this. So where it is coordinated through some kind of quasi-central agency. But again, you don't want to go back to centralization where you just left it. So it's some of the dilemma we face. But what I just want to warn this audience about, not warn, but to bring to your attention, is that you wouldn't get everything right. And let us not attempt to stop the process because we can't get everything right. I think if we get 70% the way we want it, we would have accomplished a tremendous amount. And with time, we will move from 70 to 75, from 75 to 80, as the case may be. But one of the problems we have in a society like ours is that in our effort to get it right, because everybody will tell you why it is not right. So paralysis, analysis, paralysis, and you have consultation, you have report, then you have a report on the report, and then a report on the report on the report. So that is the handcuff I don't want to get in. Okay, so our objective is if we could get 70% right, I think we would have succeeded.
This lady over here.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kathy Lindsay, okay, from Preysal Road, Grand Couva, particularly in the Freeport Chickland district. Just before I make my statement, I heard the chairman say about 100 and something recreation grounds. Grand Couva does not have one recreation ground, unfortunately. Okay. We have had a situation with a road, and sadly to say, since 2012, where officers got offices, I have been saddened by a road which has been a wooden bridge, which cannot even accommodate a fire tender. Houses has burned down. We have complained to the councillor. We have written the chairpersons, past, present, and we have now reached the ombudsman. My concern is that right now, the ombudsman office does not seem to be getting any correspondence from the regional corporation. So at this point in time, we're at a stalemate. I want to know what is there going to be in the structure for when it is that constituents have problems with the regional corporation. In particular, in our case, we have no drainage, we have a derelict road, and we have a bridge that cannot accommodate vehicles. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Mr. Minister.
I mean, it's difficult to get a straight answer to that because there are several issues there. There is the concept of scarcity of resources and the equitable allocation of resources. So, on the face of it, your councillor is responsible to seek the interests of his burgesses to get the work done. But the councillor will come to a council meeting and there are 14 other councillors and they have $2 million to share among 14 of them, so that is less than $200,000 per corporation, per councillor. That is if they go equitable. And then $200,000 can build a bridge. So then you might say it is better, more effectively spent to do 4 $50,000 projects so that it will impact on 4 different communities. Okay? So, but at the end of the day, the state has a responsibility to provide amenities and services to its citizens. And let me just show you that is what was the genesis of the creation of the Ministry of Rural Development. Because in the grand scheme of things, you go to the Ministry of Works to build the bridge, and if they have a similar situation in St. Joseph, where the broken bridge affects 600 people, and your broken bridge affects 5 families, the classic analysis of that situation will say we have to fix the bridge that affects 600 people. So that is why the Ministry of Rural Development, who will come in as a policy ministry on rural development deliverables, can make an intervention in that regard. Because we have a mandate in the Ministry of Rural Development. It hasn't been crystallized in its final form as yet, because it's a new ministry. We now putting the infrastructure in place. That we can make intervention on matters specific to that. I'll put another example, rural transport. I got a complaint from Maruga today that, they went to PTSC, and PTSC, they say they didn't have the resources, because PTSC will prefer to put their buses on profitable routes. So if you have a route from San Fernando to Princeton that you could run 5 times a day and the bus full going and coming, you wouldn't take a bus and send it down to Maruga. But the people of Maruga are citizens of Trinidad and Tobago with the right of service also. So if you don't have a policy intervention at the top, it will never happen. And that is the raison d'etre. That is the reason that this ministry was created. It's early days still, but I would say give me some time, and we will put a framework to start to solve some of these problems that you
I want to bring Alderman Roberts in here, and also I know that you want to respond to that particular point, but also the second part of the lady's question had to do with accountability. And to whom do you turn institutionally for recourse under this new framework that's being put together?
Certainly, in this new dispensation, Minister in his presentation indicated the importance of civil society organizations. And their civil society organization will have the opportunity to be able to bring pressure to bear on the regional corporation in order to get work done in their community.
So is it envisaged that there be an ombudsman type function attached to the local government sphere in the event of not only of a falling down on the part of the local government representatives, but malpractice and other things that happen that prevent development from taking place?
The structure will have these built-in agencies to ensure not only situations like that, but to ensure that there is integrity and there will be no corruption in the system.
Okay, this gentleman over here.
Hello, good night. My name is Hans Canterbury, and my contribution is that I'm of the view that the comparison between the THA and the regional corporation is flawed, because on one hand you have THA, we're getting about 2.4 billion, and you have the regional corporation who gets probably about 200 million. So to me, I think the comparison is flawed, and but I'm of the view that the council should be empowered, should be given the finances in order to almost act as sponsors to decide which project must be done in their area. So it will be similar to paying TNTech. They will decide, that they want a project done, and they'll pay the public service or give public service the financial resources in order to execute the project on the council's behalf. In that way, the council could, after they get whatever allocation, it could be $1 billion, they will determine whatever the allocations are based on their needs of their region, and you utilize the public service who already have the structure that is required, who already has the expertise in order to execute these projects, properly planned projects, because we have a Ministry of Planning. We have several engineers in the public service to be delivered the goods and services as was planned to the Burgesses and to the citizens of Trinidad.
Minister, you want to take that?
Yeah. With regards to THA and the regional corporation's comparison being flawed, you're partially right in the sense that I was more talking about structure than resources. So we want to implement a similar structure. if you attribute the success of Tobago only to the quantum of money that they receive, well, then your argument is right. But I think the success of Tobago is not only the quantum of their budget, because they have significantly more responsibilities than the regional corporation that presently existed. It has to do with the structure, and that is why we say we're putting a similar type of structure in place, and then hopefully we will deal with the allocation of resources. Let me just make a point on allocation of resources. That will be a major challenge for central government. And let me make it abundantly clear to this audience. Because there's a difference between equal and equity and equitable. Equal is very easy. You divide all your money by 14. And then you treat everybody equally. Equitable means a fair sharing of the resources where the needs are. How do you compromise those two theories? Is subject to see. I'll quote an example for you. Take Port of Spain. No, take Arima. The Arima Borough Corporation is 4 square miles. Mr. Chairman says 800 and something square kilometers, so I know 720 square kilometers. Arima is 4 square miles. So if you check how much kilometers of roads that exist in the borough of Arima, it is small compared to somebody like Sandy Grande, Mr. Rondon. The amount of traces it have in Sandy Grande from Manzalina to Guayco to Cunaripo, straight to Valencia and up into Matlot. And then when you check the regional corporation budget, Arima gets the same amount of money for road repairs as Sandy Grande. So you now have to define equality with equitable. And it's a challenge we will face, but obviously we'll come with algorithms and matrices, using some big words there, to deal with that matter.
Gentleman had a follow-up.
I heard what you said, but what you're saying to me is that somebody who have a lot of resources in comparison to somebody who have less resources, you are saying to me that the person with more resources are trying to be fair. The person with more resources, it's difficult for me to compare the two, because it's obvious the person with more resources can, if we compare in a yard, we're able to maintain his yard better than somebody who has less resources. So when you're looking at the outcome of the delivery of services in Tobago, you have to factor in the resources, because they just have more. Yes, they have more responsibilities, but they have more. If you work it out per kilometer, square kilometer, or per person, yeah, it's significantly more.
But I think the point is taken. Yeah. It was addressed by the minister, who said there needs to be some kind of formula, because as I said at the very beginning, there are huge disparities, not only in terms of needs, but in terms of revenue generating capacity, in terms of what people's personal incomes are in the various regions. This lady has been waiting.
Good night, everybody. I think you have just answered the question that I was going to ask, but what I wanted to find out in terms of the resources, and you said the subventions, that you will have a subvention. I just wanted to know if there was a fixed formula for the allocation of the resources. No. Not as yet. And if you do, and you are considering it, would you consider like how you have the THA, and that's one, that's the 4%, or if you would consider the needs analysis of the region, or if it is that there will just be a fixed formula based on the equality of...
I honestly cannot answer that at this point in time. Well, but what you should do is probably give the committee a little document, a 2-page document on what are the possible formulae they could use, and which is the one you recommend. Because on that point, people are welcome to make written submissions. Okay. Now, everything you say here is taped verbatim. There's a transcript which will be gone through by the committee, and they will take out, what are the points you make. But written submissions are welcome, and as a matter of fact, written submissions are encouraged.
Before we move away from that, maybe I can put the chairman of the committee on the spot here. In terms of what would be the guiding principle? Clearly, we're dealing with something of a mix, a hybrid between the subvention, which is the traditional model, vis-a-vis revenue generating capacity. What's the principle in terms of the balance that you're trying to achieve?
Well, our basic ideal is empowering all communities. So we will be looking at both resources available within the community. For instance, if you look at Point Fortin, that borough would be termed a wealthy borough. And also we'll be looking at equity. Somewhere like Arima, which is not really generating much income to satisfy the needs of the Burgesses. So it would be a mixture of equity and even distribution, as well as we'll be taking into consideration the specific needs of target communities. So there will be some level of tweaking of the formula.
Thank you very much. This lady has been waiting. Oh, you have a
Your
follow-up question.
No, my follow-up is that in our region, it's not only country, as you mentioned earlier, as we have the Point Lisas Industrial Estate. And as you mentioned, that there would be a subvention of the taxes also, taxes collected. And if you have any things in place for like the industrial estate, and also when you consider the resources, as you said that Point Fortin, is the borough, how much is allocated to them, and Couva Tabaquite is a big area, and we have prepared our strategic plans, and we already have a plan in our area as to what we would like to do, so if consideration will be given to that.
Yeah. Thank you. Minister, any comment?
You have the strategic plan, but we have to know where to stop this line of argument, because what I don't want to happen with the regional corporations is that we create such an identity that you forget you're Trinidadian, all right? So I don't want to have 14 independent republics under federal government. You're just a regional corporation looking after your community. And this idea of allocation, Ms. Bascom brought it up. If you pay property tax for industrial areas, industrial plant and equipment, which is part of the act, okay? And commercial and industrial were in effect. The only one that wasn't affected was the residential property. So you may find the borough of Point Fortin collecting a tremendous amount of money. We've worked it out. I don't want to say what the figure is. And also Point Lisas. Okay? Point Lisas will generate more revenue under the taxation laws of Trinidad and Tobago in terms of property taxes than could possibly be allocated to Couva, Tabaquite, Talparo. And even though the legislation says, well, you have to keep the resources here, you know, you could take this argument to Freeport Chiclan Councillor is not part of that, you know. So Mr. Alif now, who is Couva, he will say, well, you see, that 30 million, that is mine, you know, because that falls under my jurisdiction. And that has to be spent here. So, but the entity really that is collecting it is not Point Lisa's Couva electoral district. The entity that will be collecting it is Couva Tabaquite Talparo Regional Corporation.
Okay, your question.
Thank you very much.
Name, please.
Hi, my name is Catherine Joffrey. I'm a former alderman from local government. Firstly, let me say good night to the Honorable Minister, PS and Chairman of Sawan Laverton. Mr. Minister, I would like to firstly congratulate you and the Prime Minister on keeping your election promises on local government consultation and bringing it reform and bringing it to the people. So let me thank you there. I have listened to you in your local government discourse, which was your first meeting in San Fernando. One of the things I would like to emphasize, as someone who had worked in local government for 19 years and also served at an alderman level, what I have noticed, one of the problems affecting local government operation with respect to the effective relationship between the council as the political body and the administrative arm is most time there are lack of accountability and transparency with respect to the administrative arm through the various officers specified in the municipal act from the CO come down and not bringing the true picture of the regional corporation status to the council when they come. And most time the council does not have the power to go into the administration book to see exactly the status of the corporation. That is one. I am not seeing in the vision where we are having I would like to see, I don't want to condemn it, right? I agree with what you have outlined here. But I would like to see, firstly, the CEOs of the corporation being held more accountable for the taxpayers' money. Because what we are witnessing in our country today, where you have many allegations of corruption coming out from various ministries, there is no doubt that under the Ministry of Local Government, several corruption activities have taken place. I will also like to say, could we see in the act where the accounting officer of the regional corporations, cities and borough, the financial officer especially, that is a post I have witnessed where the corporation where I was, they hire on Willy and Willy. And sometimes when you check out the qualification of the financial officer, it is not in par with the standard that is expected to manage the taxpayers and the purchases funds. You understand? Another thing too, I would like to see the increase in the local government policing. I see you have that here. Time to time, this is my third consultation. And from time to time, there have been promise after promise, and I would really like you to implement it. Another thing too, one more thing is, for instance, in my Burgesses where I'm living, I'm a Burgess. I am part of Shogunas and I'm part of Couva Tabaquite, where I am presently right now. And many times you have to go begging to the regional corporation and the borough, because I'm between a borough and a corporation, for basic amenities. Right now in my community, 3 weeks now, no rubbish have been taken up, right? I would like to see a proper, effective implementation on the collection of our waste disposal. I'm specifically referring to the open tray, right, Mr. Minister? Yeah. And last but not least, with respect to the chairman of the mayor, I am totally in agreement with the committee and the Prime Minister and the government that a chairman and a mayor must be elected. It is high time now we stop appointing chairman and mayor to corporation. When they appointed, they feel that they are law unto themselves. They don't, most time they don't represent a Burgess or a particular electoral district. I have witnessed where mayors, I'm saying in quotation, mayors will tell you that they are not, your area, vote for this party or that party, so they are not representing you. And I would like to see these things be implemented into the Local Government Act. Once again, I thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah. Several big questions started off on this thing in terms of accountability with respect to the accounting officers and the politicians who are elected to the task.
I mean, I'll attempt to answer that. It is a main area of concern for the committee, I know, and we'll have to really find a system that is workable. As we speak, the CEO boss is this lady. She's not no mayor, no chairman. She, the chairman of the CEO of Couva Tabaquite and Talparo reports to Ms. Bascom, okay? Because the chairman has no executive power. But in a really large sense, I am Mrs. Bascom boss because I'm the minister. And the minister means certain thing in the legislation. But because the Municipal Corporation Act has never given executive authority to mayors and chairmen, they are an appendage and an annex to the administration. So the system now operates on who builds the best working relationship with the CEO and the CEO and vice versa. So when I did a scan of the 14 corporations, the 14 corporations, the corporation that I think that is working well is where the mayor have a good relationship with the CEO, you know. And the corporations are not going good is where they have a sour relationship. So right now it has to be based on relationships, but it really should be based on legislation. Okay? So it is a very, very creative area, and she gave me a good idea there, because if you have empowered corporations, just as how the permanent secretary in the ministry is accountable to the Integrity Commission, we probably should pass legislation where the CEO of corporation has to declare integrity reports, just as how the councillors and the chairmen have to. Because they handle more money than a councillor, eh? More government money. So it is an idea that has taken some root with me, that under the new legislation, the the CEOs of corporations should probably have to file integrity forms.
Alderman Roberts wanted to come in.
Yeah, moderator, what complicates the thing even further? The legislation says that the CEO has to carry out the lawful resolution of the council. And it was tested in court in the Tunapuna Piaco Regional Corporation. And they won. So that notwithstanding the CEO of the corporation answers to the PS, he or she finds himself or herself in a bind because you have to carry out the lawful resolution of the council.
Okay, thank you very
so
much.
that is an anomaly
Yeah,
that we have to deal with.
Yes.
Well, let me just make the point, the lawful resolution of the council, not the opinion of the chairman or the mayor.
No,
it must be by resolution at a council meeting.
Yes. Yes, it's on.
Special good night to all ministers, all councillors, all mayors. My name is Charlene Wendy Hussein, and I live at Indian Trail, which is the next flyover after the Children's Hospital. I have 4 points, and I'll say it in 5 minutes. The first one is that over 100 years, the village of Indian Trail exists, and that is the only flyover that does not have a bus stop. Minister, I work at Port of Spain, Nicholas Towers, with a minister, and on mornings I have to get up at 3 o'clock to get dressed, to get the first PH taxi to go to Couva, to line up there by the market to get the bus to go to Port of Spain. If you do not get that first bus, if it is full, you have to wait to the next one, and you reach in Port of Spain after 9 o'clock. I do not understand. Forest Park, there's a turnoff. Preysal, there's a turnoff. Chase Village, there's a turnoff. Even the Nagari site that have a festival 1 year, once for the year, Diwali. Why it is Indian Trail doesn't get a cutout where there's over 1,000 people, 600 houses? That is really, really sad. Not even a trace to cut out, not even a bus stop. Do you know how much I spend in passage transportation every day? Every month, it's almost $2,100. My co-villager there, Ms. Hoover, sometimes we have to pay a pre-sale taxi, $35 or $30 to drop us home on a Friday evening. It is not safe as a female person. The next point, there's a brake line in Indian Trail and landslip, that if somebody died tonight, a hearse cannot even pass. Much more for ambulance. And that is sad. Indian Trail has been neglected for years. Basta Hall, there's ground, light, box drain. Milton, nothing has been done for Indian Trail. Not one thing for Indian Trail. There's no recreation for the children of Indian Trail. The boys are just sitting down there. They don't even, there's a ground with no lights. I have a personal problem. I think the Couva Corporation need to get the act together. The Minister of Health, that office at Couva, I have a box drain where I have a neighbor, I have 9 dogs, 15 sheep. All his water is running in my yard. The council, this is not to slam anybody, but since 2009, Mr. Maraj came by me. He never came back up to this day. Mr. Awong, I need you to give your councillors a phone that is working, because every time you call the cell phone, they do not answer. 2009 till now, this is 2016. Come on, people are frustrated. I work in a ministry, and every day I have to pass dog shit. My neighbor's cesspit running in my yard. I have to go to work. And hear what the health people will say. They're writing the corporation to put a box drain. 9 years now. What is that?
Okay.
Give the health people some more authority. They're not doing the work in Couva.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
And this is not personal. It is from
You said 4 points. You had another point? If you can do it very quickly.
Right. There's the
And remember that we're on live radio.
Oh my, no, but we really are frustrated.
Yes, I know. Okay, thank you very much. This gentleman here.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, Mr. Roberts, Ms. Bascom, Chairman, Mayors, Councillor colleagues, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Ramchan Rajbal Maharaj, Alderman, CTTRC. Reform, local government reform, as you stated, Minister, sounds very, very interesting and exciting. Very interesting and exciting. I need some clarification. If you have to abolish local government ministry, then what becomes of your position as a minister in local government?
Well, I'm the Minister of Rural Development.
So you will hang on to rural development.
That is the ministry.
Okay.
And we have put local government transformation under my portfolio, but that is, I'm supposed to implement that, get the reform in place, get the legislation in place, get the operating systems in place, and then disband the local government component. But if you check how the ministry is called, it is called the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. So from Andy, we could take a red pen and scratch it out.
Very good. The second thing is, Mr. Roberts mentioned a while ago, there will be some sort of overseeing by central government, although you're talking about total decentralization and devolution of power to regional bodies. And if that is the case, then we are a bit fearful that the chief officers, CEO and chief officers, will still be appointed from central government. That is, and I want you to allay the fears of many of the local government practitioners by that. And the other thing is, the last one, you said that local government elections should be held before or at year end. And if this is to be implemented, could you say for sure, you talk about 70%, but looking at it at 70% in train, where would that leave the local government bodies with councillors, new councillors coming on stream, what have you? Wouldn't that be some sort of chaos in the operations of the new councils? Thank you
very much.
Yeah, and that's a very valid point you've made. What I said is that before the next local election, which is due at the end of this year, the legislation very likely will be in the parliament in front of a joint select committee. Okay? When we pass the legislation, we would not have the infrastructure in place for its full implementation as yet. Okay? And that will be the process now for the second term, which will be the 2016, 17, 18, and 19 term. Because in that term now, hopefully we could get everything ruled out. Because this thing is very, very complex, you know. And it is very far-reaching. You raise a point about who will appoint the CEO. The CEO is a public servant. They fall under the Public Service Commission. And it is the public service that is mandated by the Constitution to support the political arm of the state. So we cannot flaunt that. So realistically, the administration and the regional corporation will continue to fall under the public service and to fall under public service regulation. They will probably, you will have greater say based on the local, the Municipal Corporation Act, when you get executive power in terms of what you can instruct or what you cannot instruct the CEOs to do, whether they actually word it, you could give general and specific direction as how they say a minister can do. So all these are areas that we're glad you brought it to our attention, and that is why the drafting of the legislation is so important. Let me just make the point and apologize for the Honorable Stuart Young, who is the Minister in the Ministry of the Attorney General and Legal Affairs. He is the there's a technical committee that is headed by Ms. Bascom, okay? And it includes expertise in local government. But there's also a ministerial oversight committee to oversee this process, which is chaired by your good self. And the vice chairman is the Honorable Stuart Young, Minister in the Ministry of Local Government. And he has been mandated by the Prime Minister to take personal attention to drafting the legislation. Under normal circumstances, Mr. Young and myself would be here interacting with you. Obviously, as you will be well aware, there's a parliamentary session going on in the House now, so hence his absence. But the legislation is probably the highest priority item, because nothing can happen without legislation. And if legislation is not drafted properly, it is probably worse than where we were. So we have to be very, very careful how we draft the legislation, what we want from the legislation. And legislation could only be drafted after a policy position is articulated.
Yeah, and I think that more comprehensive proposals along these lines can be included in some of the written submissions, because clearly there's a lot of room for very fine detail to be addressed here. This lady here.
Yeah, my name is Paula Joseph Henry, and I'm very new to local government, and I'm very excited, thanks to the Minister, for giving us such a very educated description of what local government reform. My concern really is that I'm very excited about this local government reform. It's probably the best thing I've heard for a very long time. But I'm concerned that this sounds like a lot of utopia. And you talked about implementation, and I'm wondering why it's taking us so long and has taken us so long to get something that has been written so long about to be implemented. And I think when you talk about the prototype in the THA Act of 1996, I say, well, if we have a prototype right here in Trinidad and Tobago, why don't we have a swifter implementation? And then based on what the chairman had said, he talked about the fact that local government reform will beautify our villages. And I thought, well, yes, that's very picturesque. But then I said, well, something here is difficult because we talked about equity and we talk about each area getting its own revenue. And I said that in itself is a problem because if you have some of the richer, more lucrative areas receiving more money, then they would have more resource and an easier way to get their work done. And then so that's the first thing, the prototype, the unique village, and how we do that. And then the next way we're going to put this into place is we are going to transform, transform. And I thought transform and implementation goes in the same thing. And I thought, Mr. Minister, you having all these great ideas would not go a sole way of transforming. As you said, we need to put legislation, we need to educate the councillors, the CEO, and we need to have a more tight relationship if we are to get this show on the ground for a more beautiful Trinidad and Tobago rural development.
Thank you very much. And if you don't mind,
No need
Minister,
to respond to that. It's a very well put statement. Yeah.
Yes. Because we're running tight on time now, so let's keep things rolling. This gentleman, and then we'll come immediately to the lady who was waiting here some time ago. Yes.
A pleasant good night to the heads of the table, to the Minister of Local Government, and also my good friend, the Chairman, Mr. Awong. I am so overwhelming and I appreciate all what you have said, Minister. I was sitting there a while ago and I read something here, marked background. And I will enlighten you after I read this here that the public here can also look at that.
Remember, we want to move along quickly.
Yes,
so.
yes, sir. Beyond garbage collection, retaining walls and waterways, traffic and transport community centers, empty lots and mosquitoes. There are other key decisions and need to be in the hand of the communities. Since 1962, successive administrations have consulted with the public on the benefit of decentralization of government. Consistently, all these consultations have pointed to and have recommended stronger and governance. My concern, sir, with respect, that I'm a community worker. I live at Preysal, right here, and I observed something with the garbage collectors. I do not know the rules and regulations, but I have an idea. You're supposed to have 2 workers on a rubbish truck. Some of the rubbish truck have 1, delivering all the rubbish. I myself just had to come and clean out that me working on a rubbish truck. So what I'm saying, I would like the chairman and to be very concerned with the contractors and very concerned about that.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you
One
very
point.
We really.
One point. So I'll have to
Very quickly, please.
Yeah, very quickly. NGC give up that that pavilion to a regional corporation. Right now, there's some outlets, and I would like you all to take some consideration and have it very secure.
Thank you very much. Well, the chairman is here, and I'm sure that he's taking copious notes when these things are mentioned. This lady.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Hafiza Kaban. I want to thank the Honorable Minister for his proposals. I want to touch on the Education Department. The Couva Tabaquite area is prone to landslide, bad drainage. I think one of the problems is that not having proper people who are educated in civil engineer and architectural engineering to manage these drains and breaklands and whatever it is. Concerning the education department, it's like there are students here who went to school in the university and stuff, but they are not exposed to the internship to which to come and implement it in this country. And I would like to see that something being done with the students and them from here, whether they go abroad to study and to bring back the experience into this country so that they can develop this country in a better way, especially in this time of globalization and where Trinidad and Tobago is one of the top CARICOM regions.
Thank you very much. Maybe we'll get some quick responses from the platform.
There's a lack of civil engineering skills in the corporation. I've said that in my presentation. The reform process will obviously staff that out. With regards to the internship, well, you know, that's a function of the Ministry of Education and skills training. But all in all, there are so many trained people in Trinidad. It's just how does the system absorb them? And this is the challenge we face. I made a plea about underemployment. There's a OJT program in place. There are a lot of areas of engaging young professionals and young people for training, and the government will continue to do that.
Thank you very much. Very quickly.
Pleasant good night, Honorable Minister. Those are the panel, especially invited guests, senators, ministers, chairmen, and all. I got part of my question, though part was answered earlier by other persons while you entertained the discussion. It was mainly with respect to the Executive Council, which you had mentioned. Since we are going to adopt this THA model, we know it's a top-down, more or less, transition. And was really with respect to the staffing, whether elected, selected, specially appointed persons. But I got that part cleared up earlier. But into part of your contribution earlier, you had mentioned that if the 14 regional corporations are to be empowered, more or less, Trinidad would be a very over-governed, existing country. You had mentioned also that probably we have to, instead of 14, cut down to 12, 11, 10, or as the case may be. My main issue, though, is that I do hope that you take into consideration, when this is being done, of the number of employees attached to these regional corporations, because probably somewhere along the line it should be absorbed, and their means of livelihood should not be ended, right, abruptly. And secondly, you went into the point where disaster management within the regional corporation plays a very integral part. However, we know that we are more or less embedded by the Point Business Industrial Estates, and for a fact, close relationship within the disaster management unit and the regional corporations, together with what is called TMAS, which is the body that governs the Point Business Industrial Estate, if there's an unplanned emergency disaster also. You made mention to the extent where it's important of time for first responders and all of that, and also why should someone who lives at the rural area have to take a taxi to go to the town area to absorb their own funding through the ATM machine. I just want to bring a point to you that even though it may not, just a stray for a minute, but it's a point I want to bring forward where seeing that we are at the Point Business Industrial Estate is more like a chemical time bomb. And we know for a fact that the only closely hospitals with burn units and all of that, the closest one would have been the Couva Children's Hospital. And therefore, in times of emergencies and responding, time is of the essence to preserving lives. And safety always comes first, yes. But the point I am making, probably, since you said we are alive, it doesn't fall under your Ministry of Health. It will be very, very essential to have that Couva Children's Hospital open, especially because of the addition of the burns unit, which will become very essential if there's an emergency or disaster. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any quick responses before we move on to
the Couva Children's Hospital falls under the ambit of the Minister of Health, so I will reserve comment on that. The 10, when I said 14 probably is over government, I'm just making a point. It's not to say that we're going to cut it to 10 or cut it to 12. I have to be careful. I just forget I'm a minister now, so when I see something, people say, well, that is the gospel. But it was just an idea I was throwing out, that we may end up with the same 14 corporations, but when you look at the data, you may see, it's better organized in 12 or 13, but it's early days still, and the biggest guarantee I want to give is that there will be no redundancy of jobs. Even at the Ministry of Local Government level, no at the regional corporation. There will be virtually a mass recruitment of new skills when this local government reform process is completed.
Thank you very much, sir.
Good night to the table. I'd just like to find out, as a local government practitioner, Anil Baliram, presently at the regional corporation, when we do our estimates and for projects to become executed, we have to send it to the Ministry of Planning and then the Ministry of Finance for the allocation. With the consultation, the diversion of the local government, would we still have to send our projects to the Ministry of Finance for approval, or we at the regional corporation will have our say to approve our project on the corporation level right there?
Thank you.
Well, the legislation hasn't been drafted as yet, but I will take the liberty to say that you would not have to send your estimates to the Ministry of Finance for approval. The Ministry of Finance will be making block allocation, just as they do with the THA, on a quarterly basis. So if your development program is $50 million, and they're giving you a half-yearly allocation, they'll allocate $25 million to you. You are responsible, your accounting officer, in terms of the financial regulations of the country, will be your CEO, and then the council will have executive authority to do what they have to do, but you have to account how you spend the money. Nobody will tell you. Nobody has the authority to tell you where to spend your money. As we speak now, I could tell the chairman of the Couva, Tabaquite and Talparo, don't do that and shut it down. You will be empowered to say, if you get $10 million, you get $15 million, these are the projects that I plan to do. It is approved by your executive council. That comes like your cabinet. Your cabinet takes a decision, and the project is approved. You do your estimate, you tender, there will be procurement procedures, what have you, and it will work, it will work. Give it a chance and let us see how it works.
Mr. Roberts, as a local government practitioner yourself, what do you think about what the minister said?
You expect him to say anything,
I understand how the Tobago House of Assembly operates. All right, there would be a block vote. The corporation will then have to readjust their allocation readjust their projects based on the allocation that they have, the amount of money that is allocated to the corporation. But there is no need really to send it to the Ministry of Finance.
Okay, next.
Good evening. My name is Darrell Thompson from Roy Studio, Couva. I want to thank the government for organizing this series of consultations. I would like something a little more substantial to comment on than this. So the Minister mentioned that there are some other documents that are being used, and maybe a summary of that could be put forward for further, more detailed consultation. Specifically, my questions are, what is the plan for the development of a national building code? And
what? National building code?
Yes. And what, how will the local government bodies be empowered with the authority to enforce those requirements? Because right now enforcement is very weak. And my final question is, you mentioned an example of a quarry development and the rights of the local constituencies to object. Where there is a conflict between what central government wants for development and what the local communities want, how is that conflict going to be resolved? Thank you.
Thank you. Big question, Minister.
I mean, on the face of it, we hope this country will never be saddled with an irresponsible central government. But based on the pecking order of authority, the central government is in charge of the country. And if it delegates power through our local government reform process, it is delegating authority to you under legislation. It cannot breach the legislation which the Parliament has provided. But in terms of where the legislation of the country gives such powers to the central government, and if it wants to implement it, that is the law.
Thank you. Sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Joey Harinanan. My question is extremely simple yet critically important, and it goes, what measures are being considered to treat with underperforming and incompetent officials within the local government body?
Thank you. Would there be a right of recall for local government representatives, for example?
When you say local government representative, you mean elected representatives? So,
yeah,
you mean elected representatives?
Elected representatives.
Well, as we speak, the legislation doesn't provide for any recourse except wait the 3 years and vote them out. But having said that, you have to lobby. This is a democracy. Democracy. There's something called lobby. There's something called community response. So if you embarrass him in the public, embarrass him in the media, I mean, I don't say block the road and burn tires, but you can have a protest and say, my councillor is not performing. Let the media coverage, and then there's something called embarrassment into action, you know. That is a civil society theory. Embarrass you into action. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
I think his concern also focused on whether there would be a kind of regulatory recourse vis-a-vis a right of recall or some kind of other mechanism.
Well, we didn't get through the country didn't accept the right of recall at the central level. So I want to be realistic.
Perhaps
I think a
we
right
should
of
creep
recall
before we walk,
in a
and
municipal
I think
corporation.
local government is an excellent place to start such initiative.
I want to be realistic. We will consider it, but I think to sell the right of recall at the local government level in a 3-year term is pretty difficult to administer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good night, Honorable Minister and other members of the panel there. As Chairman Henry Wong had mentioned earlier, we at the CTTRC, our configuration is 13 UNC councillors, 2 UNC aldermen, 2 ILP aldermen, and 1 PNM councillor. And probably this is the first time we have such a level of diversity and representation across the board. And this is mainly because of the introduction of the proportional representation by the People's Partnership Government prior to the 2013 local government election. Are you all going to retain the proportional representation in your remodeling of local government?
Thanks for that, Minister.
No decision has been taken on that. It really hasn't been, discussed in any great level of detail. But on the face of it, we would not want to cancel legislation that has already been in place. What we want to do is create new legislation for improvements. So I really want to commit the government that what it will do with the proportional representation component of the Municipal Corporation Act, but as we speak, there's no plan to change that.
Madam.
Special good night to one and all. First of all, I'm Amira Ali, representing Dolly's Place, a home for the aged, right across the street from here. I would like to thank you for the consultation here tonight. I see it will bring a lot of benefit. To me, it seems like bringing social services closer to home, easy reach. My question is, will these social services include provisions for homes for the aged? Because I'm hearing box drains, I'm hearing drains, I'm hearing everything else, I'm hearing problems, but I'm not hearing homes for the aged. Because we, in this area, from what I know of, we have 2 homes for the aged, one lower down Couva, and then we have this one right across the street here. And building relationships is very, very important. As you said, ministers will not know everybody. We depend on our councillors, we depend on the chairman, we depend on the CEO to know these people, be in touch with these people. I would like to applaud you, Minister, first of all, for bringing this consultation for better improvement. But at the same time, I also want to applaud our corporation, our chairman, Mr. Wong, and all the councillors, the 13 or the 14, they have been in touch with the Home for the Aged across the street, Dolly's Place. And relationships is important. Empowerment is even better. So I want to thank you, and I want to thank the corporation as well.
Thanks for the question. Minister, basically focusing on the fact that you had said that part of the visioning of this deals with expanding services to include social services.
Yeah.
what's the menu being envisaged?
Well, yeah,
Folks of the age,
that's a good question. We haven't worked out the menu in detail, but initially we were more looking at social service delivery at the individual level of families at risk and individuals at risk. The level of the institutional arrangements, which is really the construction of senior citizens' home. If we have to build a center for battered women, things like that, I guess will still fall under the Ministry of Social Development. But let us say the social service relief, like families at risk, child abuse, and some of these things where you need to engage at a personal level in your community. These are some of the areas we want to empower the local government bodies for.
Permanent Secretary.
And the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government felt that social service delivery was so important that we included a member of staff from the Ministry of Social Development and Family Services on our technical committee.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you. A pleasant good night, Honorable Minister and all members present. Honorable Minister, you partially answered my question in your presentation, but what I really wanted to know is what became of the planning and facilitation of development bill that was partially passed in 2015, and who will be responsible now for presenting cabinet notes in relation to acquisition of lands for the regional corporations in Parliament. Why I'm asking this, Minister, was because last year, a motion was debated and passed in our council at the Couva Tabaquite and Talparo Regional Corporation for the acquisition of parcels of land to construct our administrative complex, as well as a central market for Couva. And I want to say that it was approved, thankfully, by Town and Country, and it was forwarded to the central government. What is going to happen to that now? Who will be taking it to cabinet? Who will be presenting it? As well as in your presentation, you mentioned that there are recreation grounds, there are streets, there are roads that people will come to us to request assistance for, but it's not vested in the corporation. And for instance, we have to acquire it. So now who is going to help responsible to do that?
Thank you.
On the face of it, I'm not 100% sure of what I'm saying, but as we speak, no legislation has changed. The Planning Act has been partially proclaimed. It calls for the setting up of the planning authority, and then you have these regional planning units. The regional corporation, from a central government point of view, falls under the Ministry of Local Government. So the only minister that is authorized to take notes on behalf of the regional corporation is the Ministry of Local Government, for the time being. The Planning Act, we are currently reviewing it to see whether we want to make changes as a new administration, because that act has only been partially proclaimed. One of the dangerous things about making law and partially proclaiming it is Section 34. We made laws and we partially proclaimed the Children's Act. Today we're in a mess. So if you cannot implement a law, it makes no sense going to Parliament, debating it and proclaiming it. Right now there's a key issue in terms of the Children's Act, because the court has ruled that these children homes are not certified. And we have to hustle now to finish it and build it so to comply with a court directive as well. Because understand, legislation means law. And when it becomes law, the separate arms of government come into play. So the judiciary is to make sure that laws are implemented. The judiciary could charge the government. That is how the system operates. So making laws and proclaiming laws when you're not ready to implement the laws is a dangerous recipe for the country. Okay?
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Pleasant evening. For all protocols observed, my name is Tranal Ghani. I'm presently representing 4 groups in the area of Grand Couva, mainly so the Grand Couva Mountain Biking Association, which we recently started, the MSCF, which Councillor alluded to, which is the Montserrat Cocoa Farmers Association, the Gordon Village Village Council and Sports Club, and the Grand Couva Police Youth Group and Police Council, which I am all member of each one of these. My objective here is really for a plea of assistance for the young lady from Ms. Preysal Road. The Grand Couva area does not have a playing field. And part of your proposal, we too have an objective we want to achieve. In this area, which is east of the Children's Hospital, you already have a certain allotment of land where we could put a playing field. We want to have some tourism base, which is being a mountain biking association and putting mountain biking there. We want to use the natural terrain for the land to have a camping and hiking lookout on the central range. And all these, we just need to be self-sustaining, which we already have that in place. Just to have the residents come in and set up their booths, whether it is a hair salon, ladies, or whatever the case may be. And we started last week, and just 30 people came from all over the country to start this mountain biking trail, and that already boosted the economy. Like, we had to get food, we had to get drinks and some snacks and so on. So I already seen some positivity coming out of our initiative. What we need now is a little start on having the ground prepared and some roads and drains. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I really want to, hold on there. I really want to congratulate you all. I mean, this is one of the most positive things I've heard for the night. A group of NGOs come together to deal with the community. Couva is one of the most beautiful places in Trinidad.
Thank you very much.
The potential up there is tremendous. Good.
Yeah, very
And I jump in the gun here a little bit because I need you to call my office and set up a meeting with me, because this is one of the rural areas that I want to earmark for some serious development. Okay? We have spoken about Toko Matlot, deeply rural, beautiful. We've spoken about Moruga, deeply rural, beautiful. But we have to spread it in the geography. Beach Kumoto, again, deeply rural, central Trinidad. And it has to have a area now in the central ranges, which is Mayo, Grand Couva, and those areas there that will have to form part of the basis for this rural initiative that we are thinking. So I'm so happy to know that in the Grand Couva area there are groups that thinking along those lines, because trust me, with the cocoa, the scenery, the mountain bike, and whatever you have, there's nothing more rural than up there.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Mr. Abdullah.
Yes, good evening. And Minister, the moderator earlier welcomed me, but perhaps I should welcome all of you to the village of Preysal, I being a resident for many years of this wonderful village.
Actually, that is news to me, seriously.
Well, many things about me that you don't know, Minister. Trust me. And of course, it's a great village, and I'm very happy to be living here for almost 30 years. In that regard, there are two things that one didn't hear from the policies that you were articulating or the issues that you were identifying. We will send, on behalf of the Ministry, a very detailed document, because we already have very detailed policy recommendations with respect to local government reform. I want to highlight and put that perhaps in a way of a question. What is going to be the role or the status of the Ministry of Community Development? Because from the last little graphic video that you showed, it would seem that the Ministry of Community Development would become unnecessary, because community development really is about local government.
Yeah.
Yes, and therefore local government. And it's an anachronism to have the Ministry of Local Government disappearing and the Ministry of Community Development remaining. And to demonstrate the concreteness of that, you said nothing about the role of village and community councils. And therefore, if you're talking about power from central government and putting power in the hands of people, it can't simply be putting power in the hands of regional corporations or borough or city corporations. It also has to be putting power in the hands of village and community councils, which ought to be depoliticized. So it really should be controlled, those institutions should be controlled by the community and not by party groups and so on. And furthermore, financial resources ought to be allocated all the way down to village and community councils so that they would have power and not merely be in a situation of having to make recommendations up the line and so on. So I want you to consider very seriously putting power in the hands of people where they live, which is putting power in the hands of village and community councils.
Thank you, Minister.
No, well said, Comrade David. The issue of community development, in principle, this is a very broad principle I'm going to articulate here. ministries should really be setting policies for our country. And the implementation of policy should really take place at the local level. So that is how, in an ideal world, it is. What has happened over the years in Trinidad and Tobago is that even when the British set up the public service, that was basically their model. The ministries were directing policy and implementation would have taken place at the local level. What has happened in the last 3 or 4 decades is that all ministries became key implementers. So you set policy, but you implement it. If we sow the seed of decentralization, and we sow the seed for empowerment and devolution of power, and it starts to work and it starts to take root, I mean, the governance landscape of this country can change. As we speak, it may not be practicable to do what Comrade Abdullah is saying. But, I mean, there's good thinking behind it. With regards the community councils and village councils, in principle, that is true. One of the challenges you will face, though, is that, you know, when I was a little boy growing up in Mayaro, it had one Mayaro village council. As you go into communities now, it have 5 groups that come and tell you they represent the village, and with all kind of different names, and some has more membership than others, some has more influence than others. So from a practical point of view, sometimes it is difficult to find out who is really the true community council. So it is a challenge we face, but in principle what you're saying is totally correct.
But higher up the ladder, what becomes of the role of the Member of Parliament?
The Member of Parliament, again, you know how I like to say, I judge the service delivery in this country? How many people visit the Member of Parliament office in the PNM case on a Tuesday evening? Right now there are hundreds. And when 100 people have to come to a Member of Parliament office on a Tuesday to solicit his assistance or her assistance for goods and services, the country is not working well. And at the end of the day, the role of the Member of Parliament primarily is a legislator, you know. He is primarily a legislator, but nobody sees him as that. They see him as a solver of your problems and a man to deliver box train jobs and what have you for his constituents. But under the Constitution and the law of governance in Trinidad and Tobago, he is a legislator. And if service delivery starts to improve at the level of local government, it will give him no time now to do his core function as a legislator.
Thank you, Chairman Awang.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. So, just to start with regards to the lady from Indian Trail who had a concern with regards to land slips and so on, just yesterday at my office, I had a delegation from Indian Trail with regards to the same issue. At the moment, a report has been, an engineering report has been done to be forwarded to the minister with regard, and also included is the estimated cost for repair to the land. Minister, you did write me on it too. Yeah. Right, so I have the engineering report now and the estimate, so it will be forwarded to you soon.
That's the same report that you had sent to me?
Yeah, but regards to the Indian Trail landslip.
Yeah. And it's affecting 2 houses or something like that?
Yes, that's it.
And I think I got a letter from the Member of Parliament for Couva South also.
Right, that is the same thing. Minister, you made reference to employing adequate staff and so on at the regional corporations. How would those persons be employed? Would it be done via the normal thing through the service commissions or what? Or would the council, through the corporation, have the authority to hire those persons?
Well, that will depend on the legislation. It's early days still. We know the problems. If you go in service commission, there are thousands of vacancies in the public service that are not filled. I will prefer to have a system that sidesteps, for want of a better word, I say that guardedly, the service commission. But remember, the service commission is a constitutionally enshrined body to recruit, and there's a limit of where we as politicians can go in that. There's also the issue of the proliferation of contract labor in the public service. The trade union movement is kicking a fuss on that. We have made a commitment from a policy position by the Minister of Labour that we will want to to move away from this contract labor that has proliferated the public service over the last 2 decades. So there are a lot of issues. When you look at some of the issues that face this country, you wonder what we did since independence to now. Because there are so many unsolved matters. And on the face of it, these matters should have been simple solutions, should have been brought. But as I said, Trinidad suffers from inertia, and it suffers from bureaucracy.
Mr. Awang has more questions.
Another question is with regards to the municipal police. You indicated in your presentation that you're looking at the possibility of the municipal police being answerable to the commissioner of police. I want to say that I think that will be not a good suggestion in the sense that I think it will take away from there being municipal police. They will end up just being another arm of the TTPS. And they possibly, well, they answer to, in this case, to the CEO, but with regards to policing, they have their own mechanism, how they operate with regards to policing. But administratively, they answer to the CEO. I think we should seriously consider maintaining that kind of arrangement, rather than having them answer to the commissioner, and they will just be absorbed in the TTPS as another branch.
Let me just say something here. Write us a two-page paper on that, because it is very important. You have articulated a different view. The thinking is that you cannot have whether he's an inspector, superintendent of a police, administering a police force in a community that there's no chain of command in terms of quasi-military functions.
But it's happening now, in the present system.
Yes, it is happening now, but it doesn't make it right. So what we are saying, there will be pros and there will be cons in what I have articulated. No decision has been made. But what I'm saying is that if you feel, based on your experience, that that is not the way to go, put pen to paper, because we will consider it.
When that point was raised, I saw the two mayors busily exchanging ideas. I wonder if one of the mayors would care to comment on that, because it's an important point in terms of jurisdiction for the municipal police. I'm going to put Mayor Timke on the spot here.
Well done. Well, welcome, Mayor Timke to Couva.
I found it rather confusing when I went in and I made that model, because control of his charges is nothing that he could exercise the way he should. And therefore, unless the decision is put in place where he is given the authority to control, we'll have some problems, as we have in Port of Spain now. The officers do what they want, how they want, when they want, and he doesn't have much he can do. And I had recommended that really the Commissioner of Police should have the jurisdiction, the full jurisdiction control. And even I recommended that if a senior police officer from the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service should be in charge of the municipal police, so that he could bring some discipline and order in the system.
Thank you, Mayor Hussain. I want to put you on the spot here too, because you have the same kind of dynamic in your area.
Well, I was just telling my colleague here that the officers with the new reform will be reporting directly to the chairman and the mayors. And that should have taken place a long while ago. We don't have any say really. We have to talk to the CEO to give direction what the police officers should do. And with the new reform, I am sure that will change.
So
Chairman Awang, and what
he's
what
agreeing
do you
with
think
me, because himself they are not answering to the CEO, well, they are answering to the executive chairman. Then that is the ideal thing, as far as I am concerned.
Thank you. You had another point?
Yeah, just one
But
more
the
point.
jury is still out on that. The discussions are still taking place, and no decision has been made on that.
There are other agencies that impact on whether or not we are able to deliver on time, and it's good to know that we bring in most of those agencies under one body. For instance, I just want to draw a quick point. Mr. Steve Khan came to the corporation. He has an issue, and I'm drawing a live example here now, with regards to the neighbor encroaching and building a fence on the drain reserve, his neighbor, Mr. Mohammed. However, the matter came before us. We were able to hire the surveyors and so on to carry out the necessary survey to determine whether that is so. However, it was done. The fact remains now that because of the fact that there is no director survey at the point in time in office, because I'm hearing that a civil get much more than what they are paying the director survey when they work privately. So there are none in the office now. 1 year ago, Mr. Khan well, 1 year now, Mr. Khan is still in his predicament with regards to that. So the agency, the director survey, is impacting on whether or not we are able to deliver to the Burgesses. So we need to look at that aspect of things too. Another point, quick point before I go, with all the nice talk about local government reform and everything else, do you know by a simple majority you can no longer have local government because it's not enshrined in the Constitution? I want to make the suggestion here that it be enshrined in the Constitution and protected by the Constitution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. If I remember correctly, the last reform document produced in 2014 had a suggestion similar to that, which is that you tie local government functions to the Constitution. Perhaps, Madam Chair, you want to comment on that?
It is an idea worth considering, and the technical committee is reviewing all the reports to get the best fit for this new rounds of local government reform.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Again.
Yeah, I'd like to repeat one earlier question about what is the plan for the development of a national building code? Is in legislation to ensure that it could be effectively enforced, because right now there's very little enforcement of the existing requirements.
The National Building Code really falls under the ambit of the Ministry of Planning and the Ministry of Works, because Works has the chief design engineer and that whole department that looks at the integrity of structures and what have you. A lot has been said on the National Building Code as it relates to earthquake-resistant buildings, hurricane protection and what have you. The only thing I would say is that the National Building Code, you have to be careful, because if you put too stringent a code for residential property, you may well be putting out of the reach of the poor man the ability to build a house. Now, without compromising in structural integrity and health and safety. But some of these engineers, when you put them on committee, they go for the best code in Japan, which is an earthquake-prone country, and want to regurgitate it and say this is the building code because it's international standard. So that's my only little reservation on that. But a national building code, obviously we need that as a country.
Thank you, sir.
And so we have these last.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry.
Good night, Honorable Minister, other distinguished guests. My name is Dennis Albert. I have just a couple of suggestions. Firstly, any executive council, I would like to recommend that they include a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant, and an engineer. Any executive council, from my interpretation, would now be responsible for at least the employment of the CEO and the chief officers. I would like to suggest that the job spec for those positions be very specific. That's the only way we would at least reduce the possibility of nepotism in the employment in those positions. I also want to suggest that the CEO and the chief officers be subjected to the Integrity in Public Life Act. And I'll tell you why. I am not suggesting that any chief officer is involved in corruption, but many times they turn a blind eye to subordinates that are under their supervision, committing acts of malfeasance. I want to suggest too that the Planning and Facilitation of Development Bill, as the minister, there was a committee in place. You could probably review the committee and look at the possibility of full proclamation to have the implementation of that bill as part of local government reform. There is too much substandard construction, especially in the smaller construction, like single-family residence and whatnot. And last but not least, I live at Couva North, the Royston, Couva North area. And we have a problem with services because that they fall under HDC, Ministry of Housing. We do have a very competent garbage collection exercise that the corporation provide, but there are other issues. The road is deteriorating in many respects, the drainage. There is a CPEP contractor in there who does a fairly good job, but the entire development needs regular preventative maintenance. And the only way that I think that may happen is if the HDC spend a little more money in maintenance, or it is handed over to the corporation, and the relevant allocation that HDC would have for maintenance be transferred to the corporation. Thanks.
Thank you. Hold on the responses because we're going to have our last contribution from the floor before we have the wrap-up comments. Yes, sir.
All protocols observed, ladies and gentlemen, a pleasant good night. My name is Safraz Ali, Councillor for Gaspolo Bonaventia. I'm also the chairman of the Public Health Committee. I want to make two suggestions from, one from the lady who made a contribution earlier from Indian Trail concerning the water flowing into her property. Mr. Minister, Honorable Minister, sorry. In the corporation, we have public health officers. These officers don't have the authority to go into premises and charge people or serve them notices. So we need to have more public health inspectors with the authority to go into premises and take necessary action. I want to also talk on the next issue about the garbage collection, which was raised earlier. We have delinquent contractors in the corporation. However, our authority is stifled because we have to go through swim call to do any disciplinary action to the contractors. I'm asking if with the reform we will have more authority to the council to take disciplinary action on contractors that are not performing. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, because local government representative we're dealing with, you can have your say.
Thank you very much. Pleasant good night, Mr. Minister. All protocols observed. Firstly, I want to say thank you for affording CTTRC the second series in the consultations. Alif Mohammed, Lone PNM Councillor in CTTRC. Mr. Minister, the two suggestions. The Ministry of Local Government is to be shifted to Ministry of Finance. A suggestion is that we have more audits, more accountability. Sitting in the corporation, one statutory meeting, we had fraud squad lock the building, and that made news. And from my understanding, some of the resolutions passed by council, as I said, being alone PNM, they have 13 UNC plus the two aldermen. If they pass a resolution that's a legal resolution, everyone, all members, are held accountable. So I could be doing the right thing and end up in a jail for the night. So would there be more accountability in the Ministry of Finance by biannual or monthly audits, for, especially for DP projects and all contracts? Because we know coming up to the 2015 general elections, we had a lot of issues with contractors.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Now we really have to start wrapping up, and I see a gentleman who's standing behind you. I'm not sure if he's waiting because I did say you would be the last person. Yeah. But I will allow him to come and make a very brief statement and ask a question. We're going to have responses from the platform now, but we really need to start wrapping up. So
last suggestion, Mr. Minister, and would there be a criteria set for candidates for local elections? Reason being, you have candidates coming into winning the election, being selected and then elected, and coming into local elections, and then they can't function because of their background, no matter what. I came from humble origins, I came as a barber, but I would have moved on. But not everyone is cut from the same cloth. So seeing that that might be an issue, because then burgesses would be affected. If there's no criteria, would there be more, seriously more training sessions for local government reps because it's very much needed.
Okay.
Talga does a wonderful job at trying to train, but the response isn't all that great. Hopeful that it could be mandated from the ministry's level.
Thank you very much. Sir, very, very, very quickly.
I just want to respond to that as
Yeah.
I want to hit the nail on the head. There can be no criteria set for people seeking public office. The Constitution is clear. Once you are 18 years and you are a citizen of Trinidad and Tobago who is not bankrupt and who doesn't have a criminal record, you can seek public office and of sound mind. You can seek public office. It's for the people to vote you. If the people vote you in, there's absolutely no basis for anybody to say otherwise. It is really the responsibility of the political organization that is screening people now, that they could have a screening process that would determine what other criteria they need. But from a constitutional level, that cannot happen at all.
Yes, sir, very quickly.
Good afternoon, everybody. Mr. Minister, members of the head table. My name is Winston Montano, and I've come here from Toko. Okay. I think that the process, Mr. Minister, if you look at what is happening in your hall, your audience is dwindling. The process of consultation is a bit stiff, is a bit inefficient. And I'm saying that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We have a lot of examples in the world of what a central government is and what a state government is. I am thinking that you should be presenting to us, who we are basically lay people with a few people who will have a little more experience here and there. We should be coming up with a plan. We could say based on the UK model, based on the US model, and then we bring that here and we make changes to suit. Otherwise, you're going to spend a lot of time in consultation, and you're not really getting anywhere. People coming to tell you about drains and bong and water in the ravine. This is not what this is about, I'm sure. So I'm saying to you, come up with a better plan. Have something. You are the government. You have research officers. You as leaders, the PNM government must start to lead. You are the leaders. You have to generate great ideas and rally the people around the thing. Say, listen, central government is made up of MPs. They write laws. We will make laws. Central government will give philosophy. What is the philosophy? You're going to give the power to the state. And when I say state, I'm talking about the regional corporation. But you have no philosophy. So Couva, Talparo, Tabaquite don't know what is what is the national space in the community. And I am saying this is where central government must say, right now we're in a very serious position. We are facing financial bankruptcy, and therefore we have to bring all our intellectual strength to bear. So I'm saying you have, as central government, you have to say, this is the philosophy. The philosophy is we're going to put a lot of emphasis on tourism. So when you give a place like Talparo, Couva with Grand Couva and mountains and things, they know, listen, develop this thing for trails, develop this thing for eco lodges, develop something. They're working with philosophy. You're talking industrialization. We'll industrialize to manufacture, to replace foreign goods. So when you go into the places that have manufacturing skills, they know the whole thing about it. And I'm going to be short. I'll change up my plan for this talk. But really and truly, the system you're incorporating or you're trying to develop is one that will encourage competition. So I don't want you to come and tell me, well, boy, we have no resources. But you have a constituency, you have a region. Therefore, you must have resources. And you have to find out, and the ones with more resources, who have more corn, will feed more fowl. And people will become competitive. So I could decide I take in my whole budget and I go in and build an industrial estate. I put in lights, water, all kind of things, and I go in and encourage people to come here and live. Because when they come here and live, they'll pay taxes. And that tax is coming to me, right? And I will develop my community to compete. So at the end of the day, we don't want to hear nothing about you don't have resources. We have to start to invent and think and create. And the PNM government has been too long giving people handouts. You're talking about subventions. But when you check the tax base of any one of the regions, they have enough money to do things. And then you might want to institute, you might go to the US system, have a federal tax and a state tax. So it is simple where the money goes. Mr. Abdullah talking about giving village councils money. It's not so. Then everybody have a money and everybody have an accountant and everybody want to watch everybody. Oh God, the budget is in the state. And when I say state, I mean the region. The region have its executives, its authorities, its accountants, its laws. And you have national laws. So whatever they do, they must do it in conjunction with national.
Great.
Let's
Okay,
compete. Let's create.
Great.
Let's get up and stop looking for
Thank you very much. We have to start. And so with that, we want to go back to the platform, and I will do round robin for closing remarks. I'll ask the chairman of the technical committee to say her words.
I like some of the comments made by the last speaker. And in fact, it points in the direction we are heading, because by March, the technical committee would have completed our policy document, which would be submitted to cabinet. So that would set the general direction of the reform. But we at the ministry believe in participatory development. We didn't simply want to sit in the ministry and look at the UK model, look at the Jamaican experience, look at the Singapore model, and make decisions which would affect you, our citizens, and our burgesses. That is why we felt it necessary to have consultations, have 14 consultations, and as the Minister said, a lot of which ideas came out of today's exercise, and this is only the second consultation. I would invite you, we are in Guayco High School next week Wednesday with the Sandy Grande Regional Corporation. Just a few more comments. The reform is pro-labor. So issues of loss of job in the corporations would not be an issue. In fact, we would need more staff. We would need more technical expertise. And one of the mandates we have been given as PSs is to hire some more graduates within each ministry. So the reform has already begun. Some things would happen in a linear basis and some would happen incrementally. It has been a wonderful experience here, and we are recording everything. And the rapporteurs will submit a report to the ministry at the end of the consultation, and we will take those views on board. But I really would like to thank you for your participation and for the rich ideas that came out tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Bascom. Alderman Roberts.
People's participation is critical in this process, so that we need to engage and to listen to what the people have to say. So I am extremely happy that we are going through this process. As a matter of fact, it is my view that local government is about people. All right, and it is not the first time a PNM government will be pursuing the decentralization of social services. And I think it is critical that we allow the local government body to deal with the social services as local government is closer to the people. That is what I would want to say this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Final word to you, Mr. Minister.
Okay, I guess I have the final word. Just to speak about some of the final speakers. The garbage collection is an area we have to look at, we have to make more efficient. But I just want to draw your attention to something. I go to the UK regularly. I live in the US for a while. In very, very upscale communities. And nowhere do the garbage collection service be 7 days a week. Nowhere in the developed world is garbage collection 6 days a week. My daughter lives in Belfast, and the garbage truck in a suburban upscale area, and the garbage truck comes twice a week. The point I'm making is that we have grown accustomed to waste. And the government cannot continue to support waste forever. The worst thing that ever happened to Trinidad, Mr. Montano is my good friend. We were at university together, we shared a lot of ideas, is the fact that we use energy, money and resources from the energy sector in the time of boom to breed bad habits into the population of Trinidad and Tobago. And the point Mr. Montano made, which I endorse totally, is that as a people, we have to become self-reliant once again. Ladies and gentlemen, self-reliance is the quality that builds a nation. And when you are self-reliant, there will be no talk about, as he rightfully said, it has no resources. Self-reliance in itself is a resource. And that is what we have to tap into as a nation now. The drop in oil prices, and I'm from the energy sector by profession, the drop in oil prices probably is a blessing in disguise for Trinidad and Tobago. Because we were going down a wrong road. People do not want to work. Our productivity level, we are 130-something out of 180-something countries in the world. Our productivity is low. Our competitiveness is very, very low. We have been living in a bubble. We have been living in a cocoon. And we are of this impression that we are a wealthy nation. But you cannot be wealthy if you are not productive. It is only transient. And that is because of serendipity, based that God put some oil off the East Coast, and the oil price got high, and today the oil price is low. And the oil price is low, and everybody mouth open. Nobody knows what to do, you know. And what we need to do is pull ourselves together as a nation. Most importantly, self-reliance and productivity. We are facing challenging times in this country, and I'm glad we're closing off on this note. And what we're trying to do in this reform is to make the system more efficient. I have always told people that the last 5 years, we had budgets. Mr. Manning's last budget was $45 billion in 2010. 2009-2010 budget was $45 billion. The last 2015 budget was $63 billion. 1.3 million people could easily live on $50 billion because there's too much hemorrhaging, wastage, and inefficiency in the system. And we have to come to terms with that. When you go out, one of the points I didn't raise here today is that the agencies of the state that probably has the lowest productivity level in the country as we speak is regional corporations. You go to a regional corporation office at 9 o'clock, you can't find anybody. The gangs and them disappear. The roadworks disappear. The drainage men disappear. You go to the regional council office and 10 o'clock you don't have nobody to see. You come to see our officer, the place blank. You may barely see a secretary or a clerk. Good? And we come here and procrastinate and pontificate about all these reform processes, but we as a people have to fundamentally look at ourselves. Good? And I'm so happy that Mr. Montano had the last say, because it really anchors us back now that in the context of this local government reform, we are doing it in a changed circumstance. And ladies and gentlemen, put this in your pipe and smoke it. The circumstances in this country has changed fundamentally. The resources that we were awash with over the last, coming through the 1970s oil boom and coming through the gas boom of 2002 to 2006, those days are over. Thank God, as a people, we still did certain things right. One of the things we did good is, during the time of plenty, we invested in human capital. That's the point I made. Gate. No matter what spin you put on it, the fact that you expose so many of your young people, so many of your young children to tertiary education, it is an accomplishment that any nation should be proud of. I was the first person from my RO to become a petroleum engineer and a petroleum geologist. Right now, my RO are washed with engineers and geologists, all because of GATE. Okay, and we have a human resource capacity now in this country that we can leverage and really make things better. But attitude is important, self-reliance is important. The local government process will take place. It will take place to make it more efficient. But at the end of the day, if we as a people do not pull our weight, become more productive, become more forthright, become less corrupt, we will all fail. Okay? So ladies and gentlemen, I think it's nice to end on this note because it really puts the whole consultation process into perspective. And it is a good idea. It is a good idea whose time has come. And I want to give you the assurance that whether we tweak it, whether we remodel it slightly or what, the local government reform process as articulated today in a general sense will move forward and it will be implemented under this administration. I thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, Ms. Bascom, Alderman Roberts. Thank you very much, participants from the floor, mayors, MPs, local government representatives, civil society organizations, and people who took the time as private individuals to spend with us this evening on discussing this critical area. Thank you very much. Good night. Safe trip home.